So there's only a few days before the APUSH history exam and you're about to cry because you've been too lazy to actually start studying. I was once in your position, stressed out, trouble sleeping, but don't worry, because if you watch this video, you are guaranteed a 5 on the exam. I am currently a junior in high school, and last year I took the APUSH history exam and got a 5, which in my opinion was not too difficult. Even if you're not an insane genius, it's very doable. Throughout this video, I'm going to teach you all the things that got me a 5, from my studying tips to how to actually score points on the exam. First, you're going to have to look at your grades in the class. Hopefully you're passing the class. If not, you're kind of cooked, but that just means you're going to have to put a lot more effort in. If you have an A in the class, you should easily pass and get a 4 or 5, but if you have anything below that, these tips will become pivotal in pushing you towards a 5. But then again, grades are really only a reflection of your teacher, so hopefully you have a teacher that actually teaches you, and not some scrub that doesn't teach you anything. Okay, first off, if you're watching this video with months until the exam, you're good. Just make sure to focus in class. I know it can be really boring at times, but just put a little bit of focus in the class, do all your homework, take all the notes, and you'll be set for the exam. If you only have a few days until the exam, you're still good. For me, I only really started studying around 3 days before the actual exam, and I still got a 5. But then again, maybe I'm just goated. The most important part of APUSH is actually knowing information, and there are many ways to go about this. As you may or may not know, there's this huge textbook that is given to APUSH students. Teachers might assign you reading for that textbook, and you might think it's a drag, but guess what? I think you're right. My teacher also assigned me reading questions each week for textbook chapters, but I barely did that homework, and when I did, I just Control-F the online document for the answer. Although all the information in the textbook is great to know, trying to remember every single detail is a lot of work and might do more harm than help. The tool that I use to get this information is what I would actually say got me a 5. The best part is that this resource is completely free, and that resource is Heimler's History. I love this man. If you don't know who this guy is, you're not doing APUSH correctly. His YouTube channel has everything you need to know about APUSH. Even if you didn't take the class and just learned straight from his videos, you could probably get a 5. His unit review videos are incredible in providing information concisely and clearly. The videos are pretty short, so you can grind them out if you don't have that much time. In my experience, I put the videos in 2 times speed and didn't really take any notes, but that's because I recognize a lot of the information in the video already. But if you don't really know a lot of the information, you should watch the videos thoroughly, probably multiple times, and take notes so you can better retain the information. Now we're going to look at the exam itself. The APUSH exam has 2 different sections. The first section has the multiple choice and the SAQ, whereas the second section has the DBQ and the LEQ. For the multiple choice section, it's mostly relying on your memory, so be sure to take notes in class or watch Heimler a lot. There's not much I can say about this section except to make sure to read each question carefully. I know when you're nervous it can be hard to read the questions, but it's definitely important to look for words like except, or mostly, or directly. The questions often try to trick you up, so it's important to read each question carefully. For all the writing sections, the SAQ, DBQ, and LEQ, one of the most important things to know is time periods. So when you're actually studying, make sure to recognize the separations between units and time periods, since lots of the questions will specify a time period. And if you write anything beyond that time period, it won't count for the question. Also, for these sections, it's important to know buzzwords, which are essentially terms that graders look for in answers. For that, you can just look at a Quizlet, which I will link in the description of this video. Also, Heimler's videos contain a lot of the important buzzwords. Now we're going to look at SAQs. On the actual exam, there are 3 SAQs with 3 parts each. SAQs are essentially what they sound like, so for each part, you're going to want to write 2 to 3 sentences. One that answers the question with the buzzword and its definition, and 1 or 2 sentences explaining how that answer/buzzword actually connects to the question. If you can thoroughly explain how that buzzword answers the question, you should get that point. For DBQs, there are 7 total points that you can receive. Essentially, as stated in its name, there's going to be 7 documents in total where you have to get evidence from to answer the provided question. The question will likely ask you to evaluate the extent to which something happened. First, you're going to want to skim the documents and write down a few words describing the purpose, audience, or point of view. This will be helpful in getting the hit point in your DBQ later on. Then group up the documents into buckets that answer your question. These buckets can be as specific or as broad as you want them to be, but there should be no more than 2 or 3 buckets. You also don't have to use all the documents. I would say aim for around 5 or 6, try 7 if you can. In your intro paragraph, provide some context with buzzwords that lead up to the topic of the question in order to get the context point. Then, to get the thesis point, answer the question by deliberately stating the extent to which something happened and provide evidence and a line of reasoning. Your body paragraphs don't need to be that long. Essentially, you just need to explain the document you are using as evidence and thoroughly explain how it supports your thesis. Also, when summarizing the document, use the hip notes you took when skimming the documents in order to get the hit point. You can also get the evidence beyond the document point by using a buzzword not mentioned in the documents, defining it, and linking it to your thesis. There's also the complexity point, which you can get by linking your argument to another time period or using a counter argument. I would say to try to link your document to another time period since it's a lot quicker than trying to write a whole counter argument. LEQs are basically DBQs without documents to get evidence from. All the evidence comes from your brain, and hopefully you can remember the information you might have studied. There's one point that differentiates the LEQ, which is the historical reasoning point, in which you have to explain causation, how one event caused something to happen, change, how stuff changed, and continuity, how things stay the same. To get this point, you have to be very clear, but you have to be very clear to get all the points, basically. If you look at any of these writing questions and can't recall any information at all, just start yapping about any buzzword that might answer the question in some way. Maybe it'll work. It worked for me when I didn't know anything about my DBQ or SAQ topics. If you have time, I would recommend looking at SAQ, DBQ, or LEQ examples that scored all the points, because you can get a lot of inspiration from those. And for multiple choice, you can just look up practice questions online. And yeah, that's pretty much it. This video isn't supposed to be an in-depth overview about the exam, but just the important tips if you're running out of time. There are a lot of other great videos on YouTube that I recommend you to watch. If you're worried about APUSH coming around the corner, don't worry too much, you'll probably do better than you think. I remember going through my exam and thinking I was finished, but you just gotta persist and try not to give up. There are lots of ways to get points on the exam, so if you just write something down, you're bound to get something. But then again, maybe these tips only work for me since I'm goated, and they might not work for you. But hopefully you take something out of this video and get the 5 that you want on this exam.